It's the Fellowship of the Geek Show, a weekly podcast about comics, the comic book industry, and other geek pop culture. Music courtesy of Manny the Martyr. And now, on with the show!
Hey there, everybody. It's the Fellowship of the Geeks podcast. My name is Thomas Chick, and joining me for this episode is Mike Marlowe.
Hey, gang.
Les Webster.
Hello, all.
And Liz Newman.
Hello, everybody.
So how are you doing?
Peachy
Right.
keen. See, she's great again.
Yes. Yeah, I was...
I was going to say,
I
you
almost-
switched it up on me, Mike. You left me hanging.
It's creeping me out. That's all I'm saying.
And Les, how are you doing?
I'm confused by what the hell went on, but I'm doing well, thank you.
You're confused?
Aren't we all?
We had pointed out last week that Liz always says that she's doing great when I ask, so she did it again.
Does too.
She's consistent.
Mike never says
He left
he's
me-
great. He never says he's great.
Maybe not on the air, but
I can't lie like that. I'm sorry.
I'm not even sure there's been a time I've ever heard Mike say he's great when I ask him how he's doing.
Oh, I'm sure I did it sarcastically once, like great. But
Yeah.
that's as
Yeah.
far as that's as close as I've gotten.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's what I meant. I mean, you saying it and actually meaning it. Yeah, I don't think I've
Yeah,
heard you say that.
Nope.
Well, I hope everybody's doing okay out there. And I guess welcome to December. It'll be December when this drops, so final month of 2018. Can y'all believe it, guys?
I'm
Whereas
sorry,
this year-
I didn't research that question. I'm sorry.
Okay. You got to do some homework.
Yeah, I wasn't prepared for that. Such a difficult question.
Okay.
No,
Yeah.
it has flown by, for sure.
Mm-hmm. So, what's been going on in your corner of the galaxy?
Okay, I did sort of research that question, which is rare for me. But anyway, let's see. Finally got done with that Hellboy omnibus. Yay! So then I picked up a postal trade and actually just knocked out a Killer Be Killed trade a little bit ago, like an hour ago. Well, maybe 2 now. It's getting late, but so yeah, lots of dark comics. That's what I've been
Surprise!
doing. I know, shocking, right?
Sounds cool.
Okay.
Well, I went to a convention this past weekend.
Dang, another one?
Another one, yeah, back to back.
So many cons.
Con! Oh my con. It was
my God.
interesting.
Where was this one?
This was in Irving,
Oh, cool.
and it was not a massive show, but it was good size. They had some names there, which was interesting. So it was well worth the time.
Any good panels?
They had a panel with Steranko
Ooh.
and Bisley. They had a panel with voice actors, which was kind of neat because they had one of the men was the voice of Space Ghost.
cool.
So that was interesting to listen those three guys go at it.
Yeah, voice actors are an interesting crowd.
They really are. They are some of the funniest people, too.
Oh, man, big time.
They'll just break into a voice and make a joke so fast. And, of course, whoever they pick as their voice fits as they're discussing it. So it's pretty cool.
Cool. I didn't get a lot done. I did, but not reading-wise. I thought I was going to be able to on my trip, but Wednesday I got a call to save a dog. And, of course, you know, when opportunity arises, you do it. And it was just the right thing to do. He was 30 minutes away from dying, so I went and saved him. Yay. And I took him out to Oklahoma. And
So are you like the doggy repo man?
kind of. we try to rehome dogs, and usually when the shelter fills up, they let us know which dogs are the first to go. And we try to take those dogs and find them better homes, you know, especially right here at the holidays. And actually, it's kind of neat because we've been talking to some of the city council for Christmas to have volunteers take the pets home and give them a home and a bed and a little bit of love for the holidays. So fingers crossed.
Little foster care, yeah.
Yeah,
Nice
you know,
idea.
it's short term, but that also gives a chance for people who can't bring a dog into their home to get in and maybe clean the shelters up a little bit. So when the dogs do come back, they've got a nice, fresh place to go to sleep and stuff. So some days it's good, and then some days it's bad. We can't always rehome them, you know.
Right.
And having the heart I do, that's just kind of heartbreaking sometimes, you know. And the ones that you get too late. I had, not trying to bring the show down or anything, but I've been chasing this little dog for a week. And one day, a guy came out of his house, and he was like, hey, you know, the dog knows where his home is. You need to quit chasing him. And it was like, okay, you know. Well, the dog runs up. So I'm thinking this is the dog's home, and I leave and everything else. Next day, see the little dog again. Try to catch the dog, can't catch the dog. So, in some of my Facebook groups, his picture pops up that he was an emergency at the shelter, that he was injured and he needed a foster to rescue him, or, you know, they couldn't do anything with him. He was too bad. And he got to the vet, but it was a little too late. So we couldn't save that one. And I of course, I feel horrible because I've been chasing this dog for a week, and that's a week that he could have seen a doctor or been saved, you know. So I said, it's got its ups and downs. Some days it's just, wow, you know, makes you hate humans a little more.
Some of us don't need any help with that.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like your weekend was a hell of a lot more beneficial than mine.
Yeah. Well, no, I would have preferred to go to a con. Trust me. The dog that I saved, we had him one night, just one night, and the next day we went to my mom's house, and he like bonded with me. I guess because, you know, he knew something bad was about to happen to him. He cried for like 2 days at the door for me. And my mom's like, I don't know. I just don't know. It's like, oh my God, I don't even know if I can foster. I just get too attached. But I said, some days it's really rewarding, and other days you're like, wow, are you making a difference?
What the hell was I thinking? Right.
Yeah. But yeah, I didn't get a chance to read in the car because we had this big, huge dog in the car with us.
You read the dog.
I read the dog, yep. I was the dog whisperer.
I think that's a trademark. I don't think we can use that.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yes, that was kind of nothing for me.
That's an interesting nothing. That's for sure.
Yeah. Read wise.
Yeah. You may not have read, but you were doing something important.
Yeah. Thank you.
Make me feel bad for reading comics. Jeez.
And on that note, I have nothing, so I'll just shut up.
Not making that mistake, are you?
Maybe I should have gone first, but okay.
Y'all should make me go last.
Starting to agree after the last few weeks. Jeez.
No, I had picked up a couple nice items. I had picked up the first volume of Golden Age of Batman, which is the first several issues of Detective Comics and the first 3 issues of Batman. And these are not the full issues of Detective, just the Batman stories. And it's been kind of cool reading. Now, some of them I've read several times, but some of them I had not, so it was kind of nice to fill in the gaps. I had pointed out to Les something. I had seen it several times before, especially with the Golden Age stories, how the last panel of the story says, so-and-so can only be found in this title. Like in this case, it's Batman. You can only read Batman in Detective Comics. I'm like, well, I'm reading Detective Comics, so I mean, it's kind of like preaching to the choir. I'm already here, so why are you telling me that this is, It just kind of struck me because I've seen it with Superman stories. Say Superman can only be read in Action Comics, and of course this is well before their own books as well. But it just seemed a little funny. It just kind of crossed me, kind of odd.
It's almost like they're telling you not to waste your time to go find other Batman stories or something there, because these are the only ones. This is the only place for it.
Yeah.
Right.
Batman won't appear in action.
It does seem like a weird way to do that, but yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Don't go pick up Captain America comics expecting to read Batman because he's only in Detective Comics. Well, yeah, I kind of get that.
Right, and I mean, I guess back then it might not have been so obvious.
Yeah, I get that, but just I don't know. It kind of struck me really weird. And I had also picked up a artist edition. And for those who are not aware of what these are, I guess, 11 by 17 books that have taken the original art and had scanned it in and put it together as a collection. So it's original art. You see the whiteouts, you see the changes that were all made and that kind of stuff. And this was Walt Simonson's Battlestar Galactica run from the late 70s. Ooh. So it was really cool to see that. I got a really good deal on it. So I was like, I have to get this because it was Battlestar Galactica that I first really noticed his art, and then I realized I had seen it. Some point later down the road, I realized that I had seen it in some other books like Metal Men and stuff like that. But it was really BSG that I went, oh my God, look at this art. It's so distinctive and it's so, that's what really got me was to look at that. So it was kind of nice going down that path again, but to also see the original, it had already been inked at that point. So it was really in the process to where it was ready to be colored. So to see that, see all the changes and the lettering had been put in and that kind of thing. So these are really cool things. these are, if you've not had a chance to look at them, they're really cool. They are a little on the pricey side, so I don't have a lot of these. So I kind of pick and choose what I want. But yeah, this was one I was wanting when they first announced it. So when I was able to get it at a really good deal, I'm like, I got to do it, man. So it was really nice, kind of looking at the art and checking all that out. So
yeah, it's an interesting kind of behind the scenes look at the art.
Exactly.
In a way that we don't really get just looking at comics as a finished product.
That's exactly a good way to put it. Nowadays, with some comics, or even when it comes out as a collection, they may have like a writer's commentary, and which those are pretty cool too, because I've always liked commentary. I mean, when I would buy DVDs, I usually listened to the commentary because I want to know the stories that went on during the making of the film. And there's there's writer's commentary for the books, but
it's a lot more rare to get the art. Every so often you'll see one, but it's usually a page or two at most, which is, I mean, it's interesting stuff, but yeah, it's not the same as seeing an entire book that way.
Right. So yeah, that's thank you. That's exactly that's what I was trying to go at, and it's a really unique experience. And if there's one out there, you got the money, and that's the one that really tickles your fancy, I say it's worth picking up. Definitely, you would not be disappointed.
Cool.
Alrighty. Before we get into this week's discussion, want to take a couple moments and thank the fine folks at Things from Another World for being a sponsor of the Fellowship. Of course, it's that time of year when you start thinking about what to get the special geek in your life, or hey, you're a geek, so you're probably thinking about getting yourself something special for Christmas. I tell you what you can do. Go to our website. That's www.thefellowshipofthegeeks.net. Click on the Sponsors tab. And what you'll see there is a list of some of the specials that they are running right now. And if you click on any of those links or click on the image at the bottom of the page, that will take you to their website and let them know that we sent you their way, and take advantage of some of the deals that they have going on right now, which currently include 40% off on comics, statues, toys, and merchandise, 30% off pre-order manga titles, and 50% off Nick and Knit comics. So we highly recommend you go check them out, and thank you again, Things from Another World, for being a sponsor of the Fellowship of the Geeks. Alrighty. I think we're gonna have fun. We normally have fun, but I think we're gonna have some extra fun this week. Which way do we want to go with this first? Is there a particular one y'all want to go over first, or?
Let's go to the game show first.
Okay. We're gonna talk this week about a couple anniversaries that happened this year. They're both cult classics, but I think I think I'm be safe to say one's a little bit more popular than the other one. But I think they're. Go ahead.
Maybe not. We'll see.
It depends. We'll see. This marks the 15th anniversary of a show that appeared on what was known as Spike TV back in the day, and I think it's now Paramount, Paramount Network, or something along those lines.
Yep.
And the show I'm talking about is Most Extreme Elimination Challenge.
Good old MXC.
MXC, for short. If you're not familiar with this show, I highly recommend scoping this out. I believe there's episodes on YouTube. And if you have time on Mondays, there's a channel on Twitch. It's called Con TV, CON TV. And they do a marathon every Monday. It's MXC Monday. And it usually goes at least 12 hours. But the premise of this is there was a show in Japan, I think it's from 86 to 90, maybe 91, around there, called Takeshi's Castle, and I probably butchered the name. But the whole premise is Takeshi, and I can't, what was his first name?
He was a count.
Right.
What I saw him named called was Count Takeshi.
Takeshi. Thank you.
I'm not sure how to pronounce it either,
but that sounds
we
a lot.
All four of us are going to have a different pronunciation for that word, and that's fine.
But the whole premise is he's a count, and he lives in this castle, and the whole premise is a group of contestants are tasked with trying to enter the castle and take over and capture him. But to do this, they have to go through these weird obstacle courses, and it's a crazy show. And it's made its rounds across the globe, and obviously been dubbed in different languages. Somehow, and I hadn't really done too much research on this, how it came to America, but this group of voice actors and producers and all that got the hold of this material and scoped it into a competitive show, teaming, basically having two different teams battle each other every week. And with the voice actors, they're obviously dubbing, but they add in a lot of jokes and sexual innuendos and all that. It's a really, really funny show.
Lots of poop jokes, lots of dick jokes.
There are a lot. Yes, there's a lot of sexual jokes, a lot of bodily function jokes, that kind of stuff. Yes. And it lasted for, I think, 5 seasons, and even had like a live show, and it did real well there for a while, and then it kind of petered out. But it's no pun intended. Yes. Of course.
Sorry.
Too late.
But, well, on that note, I'm opening the floor to y'all and your thoughts of the show then. Starting with you, Mike.
Okay. I'm not going to lie. I was really surprised at the popularity of Takeshi's Castle. I had no idea. When I first started seeing these back when it started coming on, because I watched it when it was on. I had never heard of this show from Japan. I'm looking at it now, and I'm stunned at how popular this was on a worldwide level. This was a huge thing. It got exported big time from Japan. Countries all over the world. I'm looking at the Wikipedia page, and my God, it lists 30 or more countries where it was syndicated.
Yep.
The one that struck me, I don't know if you saw this, but the UK. It was absolutely huge in the UK. It was a little closer to the actual show. That was for me, that was always the fun part of MXC, is that they completely stripped the sound off of it and made up and wrote the script from scratch.
Right.
And spliced together. The original Takeshi's Castle was like an hour-long show.
Right.
And they spliced it down to like 20 minutes, taking bits and pieces out of it and rearranging them and renaming all the characters and coming up with just, I'm just, anyway, I'll go back to that. But yeah, the UK version, here's a fun kind of connection to just completely random. I was looking through this stuff, and on the UK version that they redid, the original host, or the original narrator that they used, was Craig Charles. Craig Charles, if you don't recognize the name, played Dave Lister on Red Dwarf. I had no idea he did that. I mean,
Nope,
he was the narrator for the first 3 years for the original run of that show, and it was hugely popular. And I mean, popular enough that there were 2 kind of revivals of it, including one like last year.
Wow.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I had no idea the show was as popular as it was, and so MXC was just a part of that. I mean, that was kind of going on at the same time as the British version and some of the others. I mean, it actually started in Britain before it started here.
Yeah.
And it struck me as interesting. Apparently, given the subject matter, given the way it was handled here, I kind of always thought it was thought of it as kind of a bootleggy thing, where they had like just sort of gotten a hold of this thing somehow that was not a big deal and kind of took it over and did this to it. But oh no, apparently they were in cahoots. Apparently they still co-own the property. I mean, between the production company here that did it and the Tokyo Broadcasting System, they still own it. They were totally down with it the whole time, which I was impressed by, because I didn't know that at the time either. Like I said, I thought it was some sort of weird bootleg thing they were doing. That did. Silly me. They knew exactly what they were doing.
Yeah. Making money.
Yeah, apparently.
Oh yeah, Tokyo Broadcasting. They've still been kind of big about this, because a few years ago, ABC did a game show called Wipeout, and it's still you'll still see it on sometimes, but they sued ABC because it's like, no, that's too close to our show, so
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So
And
yeah,
although
they
reached an agreement in it, they never told us what that agreement was. But Wipeout did go on for, I think, 3 more years after it was settled, so they probably paid a lot of money.
Almost certainly.
Yeah.
ABC put down a whole bunch of money on the table. You have to think.
Yeah.
Because they kept doing it. They let them keep going. So.
Yeah, they handed out some of that. Both. Go ahead.
I liked both. I think MXC, when it was on Spike, it was kind of like a Saturday thing. And that was before DVRs. So, if it was on, we'd watch it. But I think we originally found it by one of our shows went off, and it was kind of, what the hell is this?
That's got to be the best way to discover that show, too, isn't it?
His lips aren't matching his words.
that was pretty much how I found it. Yeah.
And it's all poop jokes. What the?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, it took a little while to figure it out, because if you have satellite, sometimes the lips didn't match the words.
Right, so you're not sure it's really as off as it seems.
Is this lagging, or is this just crazy? Then you find out, no, it's just crazy. But we found it in time for the Tony Hawk episode, where everybody was dubbed but him. So when he spoke, I think he was like the captain of the geeks or something. So when he spoke, he was the only one you could, that was his voice and everything else, and his lips his lips didn't match, because they still made it was his voice, but they dubbed over his voice, if that makes sense. For this show, it makes complete sense.
It totally does, really. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, like Wipeout, we liked that too. I think it's just kind of funny when you can laugh at people and it's okay to laugh at them. They're the ones that put themselves in that situation, so you can laugh.
Oh yeah, I flipped over onto Twitch last night because honestly, Tom's been telling us about this for a couple of months, and I keep meaning to. It's one of those things where I wanted to go check it out because I hadn't seen it in so long. And
Yeah.
I finally got a chance to last night and ended up watching, God, I don't know, probably 6 or 7 episodes, or at least parts of them.
Mm.
And I was like, oh my God. If you don't listen, it's absolutely horrific what's going on.
Oh
Because
God,
these people
yes.
are doing all kinds of this, it's just insane stunts, and I mean wiping out. I mean, like
Big
really
time.
potentially injuring themselves. But man, you start listening, and it's friggin' hilarious. I was really impressed at how well written some of that stuff was. They
Yeah.
were, I mean, they were caca jokes, but
And-
you know what? They were well-crafted caca jokes in some cases. There would be a payoff several minutes later on stuff, and
Yeah.
they would call back to stuff to jokes from their own episode, and it's, oh man, it's just nonstop. It's just like constantly. It's just constant. They're just filling every second with talking, and it's just, I was impressed.
Just
I was
cool.
surprised at how good it was.
'Cause sometimes somebody could like wipe their nose and they'll make that part of, so it looks like it goes along with it and that the guy's actually, got the script and he's doing it. But like I said, just the littlest things that they take and turn it into,
Right. It was the attention to detail was impressive.
Yeah.
I was really surprised. I mean, I thought it was hilarious 15 years ago,
Yeah.
but I kind of was like actually watching it now. I mean, 15 years later, I guess I'm older and wiser, or at least older. And yeah, I was like, wow. I mean, even just watching it for a few hours, I'm like, man, this is actually really well written.
Yeah.
It was. Yeah.
I had no idea back then. It was just hilarious. But yeah, it actually holds up pretty well, surprisingly.
It does.
For a bunch of dick and poop jokes, it holds up really well.
There's tons of these on YouTube, so if you guys haven't seen it. But I think most people are familiar with Wipeout, though. So it's along that line, but just cranked up like 10 notches.
Yeah, see, I never watched Wipeout because I was afraid it was going to be too real.
Yeah.
And like I said, this show with, I mean, MXC without the sound, if you mute it, is really hard to watch. And I was like, if it doesn't have the jokes, I'm not interested. So I never watched Wipeout.
Well, they had the two hosts that always, back and forth, and they kind of narrated what was going on too. So it was funny. And see, and that was another one that was supposed to be renewed, and then just they decided last minute, I guess, not to. Yeah, it's kind of like jackass humor, though.
Oh, totally.
So it's one of those you're really either gonna like it or you're really gonna hate it.
Yeah, you have to be into the hardcore hurting yourself type.
No, it's just laughing at people hurting themselves. And then watching it in slow
Right.
motion over and over.
Which is a whole lot easier when you've got the dumb joke monologue running in your head at the same time.
True.
It's
Right.
a whole lot easier when there's funny jokes coming the whole time. To watch it straight up with a normal sports-like commentary, I'm like, I don't know if I can do that. That's painful.
Yeah.
Well, speaking about painful, I had found a list. I actually found it last night because I was curious. Because every once in a while, and especially if you're reading some of the conversations going on in chat, they talk about, didn't someone die on the original show? As far as I've been able to see, no one has died. But here is a list of all the entries that have happened on this show.
Oh no! Don't ruin the show for me.
Oh, okay. Okay, you don't want to know. Okay.
No, that's fine.
Well, I mean, I was kind of curious because there was one where it was on MXC. It's called Sinkers and Floaters, where you're going over these rocks on top of this little lake, and some of them obviously are stable and some are not.
Oh, and some of those are the hardest ones to watch too.
Yeah.
Because it really looks like they're eating rock when they hit those things.
Yes, there was one time where it looked like, and this is what kind of made me go, okay, I need to really look into this, because a young lady was running across and she hit her jaw she fell down and her jaw hit the stone. I was like, that had to hurt.
But didn't she also do the splits going down and then bust her face?
There's been times where there's splits and that kind of stuff. So here we go. Here is the list. In no particular order: 9 knockouts, 35 concussions, 112 black eyes, 2 fractured skulls.
Ouch.
Yeah. 62 torn muscles, 282 bruised shins, which I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
312 bruised chins.
Also not surprising.
So not surprising. 41 broken ribs and 19 broken jaws.
Dang.
Ouch.
So, it looks funny when they're doing this, but do you realize these are actually people hurting themselves?
Right.
For what was at the time was offered $1 million. Which
no, 1 million yen.
Million yen. That's right, $1 million yen. Which
at the time was like $8,000.
$8,000, yes. Thank you for correcting.
Not even enough to cover their hospital bills.
Right. Well, I don't know what the hospital system is like in Japan, but probably
true.
not.
Probably not.
That'd be my luck. Go on a game show and break my skull, For $8,000.
Right. Fail to win $8,000 and break your skull. Right.
Exactly.
No way. Nuts. Yeah, I'd never do it, but it's funny as hell to watch.
Yeah.
When I discovered this, I did notice that, hey, there's something not right here. Because, you notice that something, these are being dubbed or something. Something's not right. Then you see the sideline reporter, and you look at the name, you go, that can't be right.
That's not that Gabriel's name. There's no way, yeah.
And then you turn to this other guy who's dressed up like a general, and his name is Captain Tennille. And then going, there's no way in hell that's his real name.
That's a hell of a coincidence right there.
Yeah.
No, it's not.
I was like, okay, I need to watch, because I remember this being on, and I kind of avoided it because I kind of saw what, I would see the opening little segment or opening credits and all that. I'm going, okay, this looks dumb. Yeah, it is dumb. Yes.
It is, yeah.
And it just, for some strange reason, there was one day where I kind of left it on and I kind of started watching it, and I didn't realize the humor that was in there. And you're right, Mikey. The scripts are so smartly written, and a lot of setup. I mean, they will set up. Okay, this contestant is this person, and their background and all that, and it may have some ties into what's going to happen to them when they do the challenge. I was like, okay, that takes a little time, to do it.
Right, because you're not just writing the script based on something that's already there. You're editing
Right.
the show
Yeah.
into what you want. I mean, you're kind of meeting the two in the middle, and that's both.
Yeah.
That's you're both ends of the thing are moving, and so it's that takes a lot of concentration. That's tough.
Yeah, it couldn't have been easy to do that. And of course, there was a running joke of one contestant being named Bubba Gadoosh.
Mm-hmm.
That
Oh,
was
yeah, the names they came up with are just, oh man.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it was just a string of pop culture references.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're near miss type names for like celebrities, or I mean, just anything they could come up with. It's there. I mean, I off the top of my head, I'm not coming up with any because, like I said, I watched too many of them at once yesterday. But
Right.
yeah, they're just knocking off the names of movie stars and TV stars and just sports figures and just anything they could think of. Basically, it's just wild.
Well, you talk about that. One of them that was on last night that I caught was the celebrity cheating husbands and their wives. I believe that's what it was. And one of them was a knock on Hugh Grant. And I don't remember who it was. It was something along the lines of, what was he in most recently? And the other one said Divine Brown. I'm like, oh my God. Does anybody get that reference now? Because Divine Brown was the prostitute he was caught with.
Right. See, yeah, just a and it's like that nonstop. I mean, there's that bit. I mean, that's 20 seconds.
Yes.
That whole thing is in 20 seconds, and then the next 20 seconds is the next one, and it's just like it's. I mean, that's the kind of writing is involved. It's just insane.
And of course, go ahead.
Yeah, it's just nonstop. And they're talking fast too. They're not. It's not like they're dragging these things out.
And of course, setting up the characters for the show.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the whole thing with Vic. Yeah, with Vic being the kind of disgraced journalist, announcer, that kind of thing. So he's been reduced to doing this show, and Kenny basically got the job because
his uncle owns the network or something. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So I mean, there's always talk about Vic's failed relationships and his bout with alcoholism, and of course Kenny, all he wants to do is get drunk and get laid and watch porn and all that.
Yeah. It's wild.
It's a wild show. And it still holds up. It still holds up real well.
I don't know if anybody could have gotten away with it like Spike did when they did. I mean, they were still pretty new as far as being a network goes at the time. And I mean, you couldn't have done it on a network that had any established anything. They just wouldn't have done it. But Spike didn't. They were like, screw it. What do we got to lose?
Yeah. Maybe people watch it, maybe won't. People won't.
Between that and the Man Show, I mean, that was what they were known for a couple of years there.
That and 100 Ways to Die or something like that.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
Something like that, yeah. Basically, it was another people doing stupid shit.
Yeah.
Show.
For real.
Yeah. That wasn't dubbed from some Japanese thing. That was real.
It was real.
Yeah, these were real stories. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Real stories of people hurting or killing themselves, yes.
In the most bizarre ways.
Yep. Another show back at that time, because there was reference to it in one of the episodes, was Stripperella. Stan Lee's creation, Stan Lee's and Pamela Anderson's creation.
Yeah.
Yep.
Didn't she also do like barbed wire or something like that too?
It wasn't her creation, but yeah, she did.
Yeah.
She did the movie.
I had forgotten about Stripperella.
Yeah, with reason.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't particularly memorable. You're right.
I've never been a big Pamela fan.
Les, I know you hadn't seen much of this show, but of what you've seen, what did you think of it?
I recall seeing it when it was on Spike, and it was amusing. Although there were times I was hoping that they could actually pay more attention to the contestant rather than making the jokes.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm not sick like you people and are praying for him to fall or to bang his head or something. No, it's a good competition show, and it was kind of the basis for many competition shows, including the American Ninja. That's essentially the same thing without the comedy, of course.
Right. It's what this show would be. Right. It's what this show would be with actual athletes and taken seriously.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It was amusing to sit and watch. I couldn't do a steady diet of it, but when they were talking about all the bodily functions, it makes me want to go to the John, so I had to mute it or go to the, just change channels so I could go to the restroom. It was okay. It wasn't, to me, it was not the funniest thing I'd ever seen. But I do agree with you folks that it had some of the wittiest dialogue. And both announcers were playing off one another. They were doing it so quickly that you could see that it was scripted. But it was opportune moments that they smashed in with a funny line. I don't know how long it ran. I don't know how many seasons it ran, but it was effective in what it did. It did get people to watch and talk. So I commend them there, and it's almost, if I may, this may be stretching it, but it was almost a version of Power Rangers. Because Power Rangers was filmed, all the action scenes, and then it was sold to various nations to film the bridging scenes and the dialogue. So that's what this was too. All the action was filmed, and then it was sent out to different countries to have the amusing dialogue tossed in there. It was a good way to do it. I'm kind of sad that it's not around right now in new spots, but I can understand why too, after hearing all the concussions and broken jaws that they suffered. It probably outdid its welcome because the medical costs were going to be way too high.
It cost too much to get insurance.
Yes. I'm sure people had to sign a waiver before they competed, but I'd be damned if I'm signing a waiver seeing that stuff.
Oh, come on. You want to be famous for $8,000, right?
By busting your ass on national TV.
I don't know.
I can think of easier ways to get $8,000. So.
Right. Me too.
And what did you think about the names of the games that they gave them? Yeah, the names of the different competitions, like sinkers and floaters. You know.
Yeah.
It's
Creative.
creative in a scatological sort of way.
Well, or log drop. There was another one.
Irritable bowel syndrome.
Yes.
Hand job.
Like when he was talking to the meat packers. He's like, how many of y'all like to touch your meat? And they're like, oh. And he's like, and how many of you like to flay your meat? And he's like, oh. And then two guys at the end, how many of you like to jerk your meat? And they raise their hand. They're like, oh, put it down real quick. Like, whoop. We just didn't mean to reveal that. Yeah, it was crude humor. Like I said, it's some people like that and some people don't, but I think it's funny.
Right. It's not for everyone, but
No.
it's
No.
for this is the kind of thing that if it was just the poop jokes, I'd show this to my kid.
Yeah.
I'm not into explaining all of the rest of the jokes.
Like the
So,
prison sex and
right. I'm not. Yeah. I don't. That's no. I can't do that. I'm not ready for that. Those are conversations you're never really ready to have as a parent. But
right.
yeah.
Especially because you showed them something.
Right. That when you're the parent backpedaling on something like that. Right. It's
Well, you better hope it's you they come to and not mom. Hey,
well,
Dad said this.
Dad showed me this show, and they were talking about this. And I went, no.
Kind of like when I had to explain to the kid what a schlong was. It was like, oh, dear God. You heard this from your dad, didn't you? Maybe you should ask him. And not your teachers at school.
Please don't ask your teachers at school.
Or your grandmother. Which really was what most TV shows on Spike was at the time, you know. More adult, I guess even now.
True.
I have no idea what they have anymore.
I was trying to think. I think the only thing we watch on there anymore is Ink Masters with Dave Navarro.
Ah.
And Oliver Peck is actually local boy from Dallas. So
There you go.
yeah, I think that's the only thing. I was thinking Sons of Anarchy, but that's FX, right?
Yeah, it was on FX, yeah. I might catch Bar Rescue every once in a while.
Yeah. That's like a weekend thing, too. If I'm flipping through, I like him, so.
Yeah, I've got some opinions about that show. That was a show I really liked in the early days.
Mm-hmm.
But they kind of changed it up a little bit to where they kind of focus more on him yelling at everybody, kind of the whole Gordon
Ramsay?
Yeah, that kind of thing. And I just like, I don't want to see someone yelling at other people. That's even if they deserve some of it because of what they're doing and that kind of thing. That's not something, I know it's meant to be like a wake up call and that kind of thing, but it really got old for me because what I kind of turned in, and of course we're kind of jumping off track, which we like to do, was the fact that he would actually sit down and kind of go, okay, let's look at the market, let's see what you have here, and basically. And he would fix the place, and sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't.
Yeah.
But that was the stuff that I kind of found interesting. But And I guess they still do that, but because I don't watch it that much anymore. But it just, that was the thing that kind of got me intrigued. But once they really started focusing on him yelling at everybody and dropping F-bombs everywhere, I'm just like, okay, yeah, that's so much.
One thing I don't understand about like Bar Rescue or the Gordon Ramsay restaurant rescues and that kind of thing, if you have an expert who has money, more than they know what to do with sometimes, that's coming in to tell you what you're doing wrong, don't you think you should listen to him, though? Apparently the way you're doing things is not working. You're in debt, you're losing your bar, Why not listen to the guy who has made his money and made his name?
Ego.
Yeah. True.
Some people don't want to say, okay, I messed up, I did something wrong.
I think there's an argument here also for manufactured drama.
Oh yeah.
True.
I mean,
I think there's not much of a show if everybody listens to Gordon Ramsay and does exactly what he says and everything works out okay. It's kind of boring.
Well, there used to be a tattoo rescue also, where they redid the tattoo shops. And we have a lot of friends who do, tattoos and stuff, and a couple of them own their own shop. Well, one guy was going to do it. They approached him. He didn't approach them. And he had to make changes in his shop, but it wasn't for the better. And it would be stuff that they would come in and fix, of course, but he's kind of like, you're wanting me to promote my shop as a piece of shit, and it's not, and really I don't need you here, so he kind of turned him down on that premise because he's like, although I would have gotten a new shop and stuff out of it, sometimes your reputation goes through the grate. And
they would have made him look like a jerk in the middle of it.
Yeah.
So,
and who wants to get tattooed by a jerk? Because
right.
a tattoo is something imminent or intimate. It's not like I'm going to go eat food and they may or may not be there. This is the person who is touching you for 6 to 12 hours, Do you want them to be a jerk and this big asshole and kind of shown that they can't do their job,
Right. You don't want them to be proven to be bad at what they do.
Yeah. Especially on things like sterilization. He's religious and he's like, I'm not going to do that. So that's when a big eye-opener to me, too, was that, reality TV is not always the reality of it.
It's not as real as they want you to think it is.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
But, of course, they play up, well, you get a new shop and you'll get business, and it's just not worth it sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
All right, we're going to segue over to the other show we weren't.
Since we've already jumped the tracks, we might jump to an actual track.
Right. Over to another show that is celebrating its 30th anniversary. And boy, this has been a fun show, and I'm not even sure where to begin with this one, so I'm just going to go ahead and say it. The show is Mystery Science Theater 3000. It's celebrating its 30th anniversary this year. I came across it pretty early during its run on Comedy Central, and I got Mike into it. I basically forced him watching some of the stuff that I had taped, because this was back during the days where you videotaped it.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, even the show ended, keep circulating the tape, so they wanted you to tape them in because, kind of got the word out there.
Now, for our younger viewers, a tape is what was before DVDs.
Yes, definitely VHS. Yes.
Good point. Yes, VHS. Google it.
It was on a machine that you had to get an 8-year-old to program for you.
Yep. If not, the clock just blinked at you all the time.
Always midnight all the time.
No auto set. Oh my god.
Yeah, this is before Wi-Fi, people. The dark ages, you know.
So, what are your thoughts of this show?
Now, I'll be honest. I don't know a lot about this show. I remember watching it, but like I said, as far as characters and that kind of thing, I was always the cheesy B-movie, black and white, late at night TV sucker. So I know I watched it, but when you said Comedy Central, it was kind of like, I thought it was, I don't know, maybe it was.
Yeah, it moved to Sci-Fi later.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what I'm thinking is Sci-Fi.
Yeah. After they did several.
Yeah, there was several
the
seasons.
The first
on...
couple of seasons, the first 2 or 3 seasons were on Comedy Central, and then they moved to Sci-Fi. Something like that, anyway.
Because I think Sci-Fi also did Elvira's show, and that was along the same kind of premise in a way. The narrator with the B-movie and. Only, didn't their heads stay in the movie the whole time?
Yes, and it was more of a running commentary.
Yeah.
I mean, with Elvira was really just
between commercials.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the honestly, the current person who still does stuff like Elvira is Svengoolie. He's still around, and that's kind of more along the lines of what Elvira did.
Yeah. See, and I record him too.
These guys were. It was a running commentary through the whole movie. It was like you'd listen to a commentary track where they're actually talking about scenes that are going on. That's what these guys were doing. Except it was just all smart ass jokes, of course.
Yeah.
Well, honestly, it was what we were doing at the time.
Yeah.
Right. We would watch those old.
They said what you was
black
thinking.
And white movies, and just make jokes about what we're seeing, and then all of a sudden I go over to Tom's house one day, and he's sticking this tape in and showing me these guys doing that shit for real, and I'm like, whoa, that's cool. And they were funny.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, find out later it's because they weren't necessarily improvising the whole time, but that's okay too. Scripting is good.
Yeah. I said, I know the reboot is going to have Felicia Day, who's my favorite nerd, so that should be pretty good. Or I guess is it on now?
Yes, the second season just debuted on Thanksgiving Day.
Yeah, they just dropped season 2. So it's happening. It's a thing.
Yeah, I'm behind already.
That's right, folks. She's so far behind, she thinks she's ahead.
I know, right?
And I know they had to watch the movie something like 8 to 15 times.
Oh, yeah, over and over again.
Yes, to get their lines down, to get their first passes for the obvious jokes. And then to hone it down to the keepers was such a chore.
Mm-hmm.
But this one definitely had high points. There are parts that come to mind of just instance of different films, and I can recall what was being said at certain times. So it was a strong show, and we did this similar when I was in college, watching the late movies on Saturday night with Out of Tulsa. Gaylord Sartain, the actor who played the Big Bopper in the Buddy Holly story, and Gary Busey was on the show before he became a star.
Wow.
But they were on Mazeppa Papazoides Uncanny Film Festival, and that's what we would watch with these idiot movies, and we would write down comments through the whole thing because we would be laughing so hard. But these are comments we made when we recognized something on the screen. These guys did this, are doing this now. They're doing what we've always wanted to do. Talk back to the screen. Laugh at it. And point out the bad parts. The continuity.
Yep.
Yes.
Point out the bad parts of bad movies.
Oh, yes. And you know me, I love bad movies, but they find some that make me shake my head going, what the hell am I watching now? But they make it fun.
Right. I mean, in a way, they're kind of breathing new life into these terrible old movies.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
I mean, some of these, there are movies that, I mean, would have by now been lost to time. They just would have gone away, except that these guys did a riff version of it, and people are now watching it again.
Yes.
I mean, hell, they wouldn't even, I mean, it took them years before they would even touch Plan 9 from Outer Space. And, I mean, honestly, they probably, to an extent, brought it back from the brink. And there are it's just a list of other movies like that they did that with.
Mm-hmm. Look at the popularity of Manos, the Hand of Fate. Horrible film, but everybody knows it. Why? Because of this show.
Mm-hmm. And another cool thing is that a lot of the folks that were involved with it are still around doing similar stuff. They've been doing it the whole time. I mean, there was Cinematic Titanic. There was, what was it? The Film Crew.
Yep.
Riff Tracks. It's all those guys. There's two of these guys, Trace Ballou and Frank Conniff, are doing a podcast now, which is an absolute riot. Movie Sign with the Mads is what it's called. Go listen to it. It's a hoot. They go watch current movies and then talk about them on a podcast. They spend 45 minutes, an hour talking about a movie they just saw. And sometimes if they don't have time to go to the movies, they'll talk about a classic movie. And it's a blast. And the Riff Tracks guys, they're doing great. They're a big hit. Doing live tours and stuff. Still going strong.
Yeah.
Years later.
Exactly.
Clearly they hit a nerve.
Yep.
They hit a funny bone. That's what they did.
It's a lot of fun.
Yep. Do you happen to remember which one I showed you?
Oh, dear God, no. There have been so many.
Yeah.
I mean, I won't claim to have watched them all either, but there have been so many that I have no idea what the first one was. Oh, no, not a clue. I mean, I couldn't even tell you how early on it was.
Les, do you remember the first one you saw? Or you remember what the movie they riffed?
What I remember about the movie was it was a Japanese film, and they kept calling everybody Ken.
Ah, I know what you're talking about.
And I laughed my ass off.
I know that one. It's called Fugitive Alien.
And I have a young friend who I sat down in front of the TV and said, "You got to see this." Mm-hmm. And now he is more in tune with riff tracks and MST3K and everything else like that. So he keeps me apprised of what's going on.
That's cool.
When I had my surgery, he came in with a thumbnail of about 8 movies, and I loved every minute of it. One of them was Birdemic, so he has my gratitude forever.
Most people would beat the hell out of him for that, but anyway.
He has your extraordinary gratitude?
Them too. What?
Fistful again. Kentucky Fried Movie.
We'll explain it during the break.
Mm.
Thank you.
I remember it was either Time of the Apes, which was a Japanese Planet of the Apes ripoff, or it was It Conquered the World with Lee Van Cleef, Beverly Garland, and Peter Graves. It was either one of those was the very first one I saw. And I was like, what in the hell is this? And I just could not stop laughing. Because in a lot of cases, something I was thinking, they immediately had said that. I was like, oh my God, get out of my mind. Get out, please. It's a fun show, and I still laugh at it. I mean, there's been films that are so bad, you're just like, guys, I feel for you. I don't know how y'all gonna make this funny, but and they do to a certain extent, and that can't be easy. Because you're right, it takes, they gotta watch it a few times just so they can come up with the ideas for the jokes, and then go back and then actually set down the times so where they actually do the filming of them watching the show to make sure they hit the right times to say the jokes. And that's not easy.
No, it's not.
Time consuming.
It's time consuming, and especially since they were having to do this on a weekly basis.
It's kudos to those guys. That's about all I can really say about it. It's hysterical stuff. It's all pop culture reference. They won't let anybody by. They're going to take shots at anybody and everybody, which I think is a great thing. And I'm so glad that they finally got around to doing Plan 9 from Outer Space. That is one movie that is so rife with bad acting, bad direction, bad lighting, I guess we could say.
Bad script.
Yes. It's just such a mush of different things. Yet, although it was the Golden Turkey Award winner many years ago as the worst movie ever made, now there are others that would probably contend for that now.
Oh, sure.
But I've got to say that it is top notch as far as bad movies. And I think that's probably the one movie that brought me into liking the bad movies so much. And hoping that I'd go see a bad movie at least, once a week.
Well, and now you have AGFA.
I have AGFA and I have On Demand, so I can locate some really bad movies there too.
You can actually go seeking them out.
Yes. Make it my life's work.
Just wow.
Okay, any final thoughts before we wrap things up and take a quick break? Other than if you've not watched either one of these shows, we highly recommend you checking them out, and you won't be sorry.
Yeah, I believe MST I believe they've got some old ones on Netflix right now, since they're running the new ones. I think they've uploaded some of the old ones as well.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And Twitch has the Rift Tracks has a channel on Twitch, and Shout Factory is also on Twitch, and they play a lot of the Mystery Science Theater 3000. So
there you go.
And I guess we'll just have to beg Liz to sit and painstakingly watch these.
We might have to pay her to do that. I don't know.
I'll start a GoFundMe.
Alrighty, on that note, we're going to take a quick break and be back for our weekly picks. And we're back. It is time for our weekly picks, and leading off is Les.
My first choice comes from Dynamite Entertainment. It is the Barbarella Holiday Special. The series of stories by various artists and writers of Barbarella has been a good read. This one is kind of special because Jean-Marc Lavoisier is going to be writing this one. And he is known for mainly Mobius. So I've got a feeling I'm going to enjoy this. I know. Let's just be truthful about it. Because I've enjoyed the Mobius books as it is, and this will be another distant chapter. So I'm up. I'm in.
And now the holiday specials have begun.
Dun, dun, dun.
Good one to start with, though.
Yep. Well, I'm glad they're starting early in the month instead of waiting until it's too late.
Till the week before.
Mm-hmm. Alrighty. Liz, you're next.
Alrighty. For my first pick, I've got one from Boom Studios called Wizard Beach. Some mountain witches and forest wizards decide to come out to the world and let them know that they're magical, and they make this little community for themselves. Well, in the process, they kind of blow off all the politics behind magic, and on the other side of the world, there's another community that hasn't done that. They're very secluded, and the son wants to learn magic, so he seeks out his uncle, who's supposed to be this big, powerful wizard, only to find him like a hippie on the beach. Wanting nothing to do with the politics, man. So this should be an interesting one. Like I said, he's wanting to learn magic, and it's supposed to be forbidden, so... Boom Studios on their website right now has a really good first look at this if you want to kind of look it over before you take the plunge, but should be a really good story.
Sounds interesting.
Yeah, I had my eye on that one too.
Yeah, this one had caught my attention as well. So. Alrighty, Mikey.
Okie dokie. My first pick is a Dynamite book, and I am going with Hack Slash versus Chaos #1. I just saw the title of this and I was like, okay, yeah, I gotta see this, because Cassie and Vlad, since they're back lately, I don't know if anybody's noticed. I mean, I think we've mentioned him once or twice on the show, but because that's actually been a really good run. But yeah, so something's going on, and they're obviously pretty good at fighting those undead sorts of things. But they need help, and they're gonna go find, of all people, Evil Ernie to help them. And fight their way through a lot of the other characters in that particular universe, like Chastity and Purgatory, and the whole gang, I'm sure, will show up, and it's just going to be a blast. I can't think. I mean, this is just a match made in heaven right here, or the other direction, depending on how you look at it. But yeah, this is like a no-brainer in terms of a crossover. I mean, it just is.
Yep, should be fun. Yeah, I would definitely like to check that one out.
Mm-hmm. I'm kind of
all right. Go ahead.
Well, I was saying I was kind of hoping that Lady Death will make an appearance in that one too. Hasn't she been Chaos for the longest time? She was with Evil Ernie.
I think she started out that way. I think she might have kind of spun off on her own. I'm not exactly sure how all that worked, but I think I don't think she really hangs out with this. I haven't seen her in any Chaos stuff in the last couple of years.
Yeah, Dynamite doesn't have the rights to Lady Death.
Right.
So that's how they can do. They have the rights to the Chaos stuff, but Lady Death has been spun off and is in her own books.
Yeah.
So.
Which is still around. Out there,
yeah.
But...
Brian's still putting them out. So yeah.
Cool.
I am next, and for my first choice, I'm turning to Image. And it is first issue of a 6-issue miniseries called Prodigy, with written by Mark Millar and art by Raphael Albuquerque. And this is about a man he's the world's smartest man, most successful man, anything you could think of, he's the best. And now apparently all the world's governments are approaching him about trying to fix whatever issue they want resolved. So this kind of piqued my interest. Should be kind of interesting. And like I said, it's only a 6-issue miniseries, so I wouldn't be surprised this be just a heck of a romp.
Yeah,
could be fun depending on what kind of character this guy is.
Right. Yep, I totally agree. Okay, go ahead.
I was just going to say, expound on that it could be like an irredeemable character, and we know what happened with that one.
Yeah. Alrighty, Les, you're up again.
All right, my second choice is Breakneck. This was from Titan Books, with Dwayne Swazinski writing. This is a guy who has done several comics, but he's done a lot of novels too. This is going to be a thriller, and by the looks of it, it's going to be interesting. You're dealing with the seedy parts of a city, and you're talking about a man confronting his cheating wife, and all of a sudden he finds himself in a terrorist plot. So everything's going to happen supposedly within a 2-hour time frame. It's going to be a fast moving, obviously breakneck, and it's another hard case crime book by Titan. So if you've read some of those, this should appeal to you also. Others were like Peep Show, which was a very solid story, and I'm looking for that in this book too.
Sounds like a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thanks.
Alrighty, Liz.
All right. My second pick is coming from Image Comics. It's called The Freeze. The world is frozen and only one guy's unfrozen, and he possesses the ability to unfreeze people. So he's kind of faced with, do I save this person, or are they worth being saved? And I guess he's going to start building his own little society. But in the meantime, he's got to figure out why this happened. And some of the talk has been that it might be time slipping. I guess, is that the correct word for that? Where time's froze for everyone but him. But, so yeah, they kind of keeping this one tight-lipped. We'll be finding out as he's finding out. So, should be a good story. Try to figure it out.
Oh,
interesting.
Time being involved. Uh-oh. There you go, Mikey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You'll love it.
That's the first person I thought of.
It sounds kind of Twilight Zone-y, Like they might pull it off.
I think it would explain the frozen people. Like you said, Twilight Zone. Wasn't there a Twilight Zone like that? Or you thought everybody? Yeah. So.
Pretty sure it was a Twilight Zone.
It was one of them. What was?
Yeah. Okay. Alrighty, Mike.
Alrighty, I'm up again. I've got an Image book too. This one is The Last Siege. This is issue 7 of 8. And if you're not familiar with this book, I want to say one of us mentioned it when it was early on, issue 1 or 2. But this is a very interesting story. Very dramatic. It is about a castle whose lord has gone off and gotten himself killed, essentially, and so they kind of the people who are left in the castle, kind of nobody really knows how to be in charge, and then an army shows up outside, and right before the army shows up, there's this stranger who comes in, and he seems to be the only one who kind of knows how to take control of things. He's kind of the only one who knows really what's going on. And like I said, the army shows up and lays siege to this castle, and I mean that happens in issue 3 or so, and we're still kind of in all of that, and it's like I said, it's been a lot of fun in that kind of Dark Ages sort of way, if you know what I'm talking about. I don't want to call it historical, but it's not really quite fantasy either. Like I said, it's really more just kind of high drama in that kind of Dark Ages medieval setting. So it's been a lot of fun, and it's kind of, like I said, wrapping up next month. So it should be if you haven't read it up to now, you should be able to catch some back issues, or it may have been a trade already. There probably was, that you can catch up with.
Yep, I've been enjoying this one, and I'm anxious to see how this is all resolved. This is one I would definitely recommend as well. Alrighty, and so I'm up next, and for my choice, I am going with, which I did not realize until I read the synopsis, the first monthly Shazam monthly book in 20 years. I did not realize it's been that long.
Oh, wow.
So, Shazam #1, written by Jeff Johns, with art by Dale Eaglesham. And so I guess they're basically going to be setting just in the story, the original, just easy for me to say, this early story arc, kind of laying down the groundwork, since this is basically a rebirth version of Shazam. But they also mention the fact that Dr. Sylvana and Mr. Mime are teaming up to create their own society, which would not be good. It would not be good. I guess it's going to be their version of the Monster Society or whatever. So I'm excited about this. I love Dale Eaglesham's art. I first encountered it during his run on Justice Society, or it was actually JSA at the time, several years ago, and just loved the hell out of it. So it's going to be cool to see him come back and do this book. So I'm very, very excited about this one.
I am too.
Yep.
Very cool.
Alrighty, and our honorable mention this week is...
This week our honorable mention puts the red suit against the red suit. It's Deadpool number 7. Deadpool has been contracted to take out Santa Claus. I guess somebody didn't get what they wanted for Christmas. They said we'll see the jolly old Saint Nick. Not so jolly. He's going to be downright deadly. And they're also claiming this is the best Christmas story since Die Hard. So...
Whatever.
Okay.
Awesome.
So, of course, from the twisted mind of Scotty Young, we're finally going to see Deadpool against Santa Claus. If you ever wanted to see that, I didn't until I heard it together.
And who doesn't? I mean, come on now.
So
I've been waiting for minutes for this
right?
matchup.
Should be a good one.
I imagine so.
Yep.
Holy cow.
I think even if you're not like a ongoing Deadpool reader, this would be a good issue to pick up.
If nothing else, it should be a fun little holiday special thing. Yes, sheesh.
Okay. Any special shout-outs or mentions this week?
Well, I did want to mention that today, and we record earlier, but today Steven Hillenburg passed away, which of course was the creator of SpongeBob. 20 years on one project is a lot of time, and a lot of our kids nowadays can honestly say they grew up with SpongeBob. So definitely, and for us older generation, hey, Rocko's Modern Life, he did wonderful on that one too. I think it was way above its time and its curve for the audience he was trying to reach at that time, but they said gave a lot. In the end, lost his fight to ALS, so it's a pretty sad day for the animation world for sure.
Yep. It's a bummer. ALS sucks.
It does.
He was only 57, right?
Yep.
I believe so. That's what
57.
Wow. Yep, our condolences go to his family and friends, and of course the fans across the world who are mourning his passing. Any other special mentions this week?
I don't have anything.
Nothing here.
Alrighty. With that, we'll go to our regular shout-outs. First off, I want to thank Manny the Murderer for supplying the music for our podcast. We do appreciate you guys for doing that. If you check our show notes, will have a link to some of their other music, and we recommend you take a listen. Thank you, guys. Second of all, we'd like to thank the fine folks of the Podern family on Twitter for spreading the word of fellowship by retweeting and liking our links. You should definitely go check out some of their shows. The way you can do that is go to Twitter and do a search, hashtag Podern Family as one word, and just scroll down, and if something catches your eye, download that episode and check it out. Thank you guys for your support. And finally, you dear listener, I appreciate you downloading and listening to today's episode. And we'd love to hear from you. If you have a comment, suggestion, complaint, question, observation, whatever, please contact us. There's several ways you can do that. You can go to the website, www.thefellowshipofthegeeks.net, and go to our About Us page, and there's a form there you can fill out. Or just email at thefellowshipofthegeeks.net. Or you can contact us through social media, and we would appreciate it if you followed us as well. On Facebook, we are The Fellowship of the Geeks, and on Twitter, we are at Fellowship Geeks. And if you like to follow our personal Twitter accounts, feel free to do so. Mike can be found at Mikey Geek. Liz can be found at Newman_L. And I can be found at Tom TC Geek. And wherever you download or listen to our podcast, whether it's through iTunes, iHeartRadio, Google Podcast, Stitcher, Spotify, YouTube, if you could, rate our show, please. And if you have the time, a review would be awesome. Did I miss anything?
No, I think that covers it.
Okay. Any final thoughts before we say goodbye?
Thanks, everybody.
If I wasn't on mute, thanks.
There had to be one.
Think we need to fix up a light so that where when it hits mute, it's lit up saying, "Okay, it's mute." So
what's sad is it does, but it's it's further down the cord. It needs to be on the screen, or it's flipped over. You know,
It's gonna lead a horse to water.
Thank you for listening once again, everybody. We do appreciate your support as always. And until next time, read more comics and support your local stores.
We thank you for listening to the show. Comments, suggestions, and questions can be sent to email at thefellowshipofthegeeks.net. You can follow us on Facebook at The Fellowship of the Geeks and on Twitter at Fellowship Geeks. Until next time,